Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to Friday's ESPN FC Live. Mark Donaldson, Miguel Echegaray, Shaka Hislop, who's still pining for those midweek international trips to Port of Spain when he used to play for Trinidad and Tobago to escape the mundane weather and head for the Caribbean. How are you, Shaq?
Well, I was doing all right. Now you've kind of depressed me, Mark.
I know. No quick trip to Lima or Peru for you, LME. Were you busy during international break?
I was screaming at my Peruvian national team. That's about it.
Yes, I know that feeling well. Today on ESPN FC Live, we shall not be talking about international football. We're done with it. We had a September break. We had an October break. We had a November break. We don't have another break until March. So now we can talk about the domestic action. We've got a new manager who's had his first press conference as Man United boss, Ruben Amorim. We'll be talking about that. Who's next for Inter Miami? And what happens after Tata Martino decided he had had enough? And also Jules Laurent will look at some classic kits from the past. That includes Shaka's. How many X's in the XL were your oversized kits?
Only, one or two.
But my size XL.
Semantics at this point.
Donaldson size XL back in the day. But let's start with Ruben Amorim. And he had his first press conference today, Shaq. He speaks like a pro. He speaks like he's been in the role for many, many years. He speaks well. And he says he's not going to be frightened to make the big decisions. What have you made of him since he was announced and confirmed as Man United boss, and what he's had to say, especially today, to the media?
Well, I mean, you can't help but be impressed by Ruben Amorim and how he's kind of handled the transition, and even when he was still sporting boss and this announcement was made, just kind of how he went about his business, both for sporting and in kind of managing the speculation around Manchester United and all that was to come. That's all well and good, but of course the true test comes when the games begin and how he is able to turn Manchester United around. I say that only because, and I hold my hands up, I thought Ten Hag, particularly in that first season, he said all the right things and he got results as well. But as time has now told, he didn't stack up to that early season excitement, certainly that I felt. I'm taking sole responsibility for that. So maybe having been burnt so recently by Ten Hag and that experience, I'm a little bit more cautious with Amorim. Saying that, once again, you have to say that everything about him continues to leave you impressed, leave you hopeful if you're a Manchester United fan.
LME said he's going to change the standards a bit, like I need to change this voice. How does he do that?
I don't know. That was remarkable what you just did there. That's. I think to Shaka's point, there's been a never long need for Manchester United to press the reset button over and over again. But in many ways, Ruben Amorim, and just from everything that I've learned about him, is the kind of manager that is exactly needed for the Red Devils. And I'm not even just talking about it from a tactical perspective. I think that Erik ten Hag alienated a lot of players in that dressing room, and he alienated a lot of the fan base. Ruben Amorim, obviously, he hasn't managed a game yet, but he comes in with a reputation of being a fantastic man manager, somebody that really is going to encourage you to be the very best that you can be. Aside from the fact that he's a really great, smart tactician, he's resilient, his resume proves it over and over again, and I think that's the kind of thing that Man United win. It's no secret, MD, that I've said on this show that I'm a really big fan of his. In fact, even before Unai Emery went to Villa in November 22, I wanted Amorim. That's how much I respect and think of him. And look at what he's done ever since. Here's the key. And this is going to be the biggest obstacle. And he has many, obviously. But it's going to be about what does he do with the existing roster that he has? Because he's not going to have the $760 million that Erik ten Hag spent over the course of 3 summers. He's not going to have that. So he's going to be needed to really not just encourage what he has, right? But also help other players understand that you might be needed in different roles, and that's going to be a big obstacle. But I'm a very, very big fan of his, and for the sake of Manchester United fans, I root for him, specifically in these first 11 matches up to the calendar year.
Yeah, speaking of these first 11 matches, let's take a look at them. And Shaka, in politics, president-elects, prime minister-elects have a to-do list. Just like in football, Ruben Amorim will have a to-do list. He's got a decent fixture list. Yes, the Ipswich game is away, not at home, but that's not a bad start. What is the first thing on his to-do list?
Figure out exactly who his best 11 is and the formation to get the best out of that 11. That's easier said than done, albeit. And here's the challenge for Amorim, and I mean he's right in pointing out incredible man manager. That's exactly what Manchester United need. When you look at Manchester United, and as you inevitably go through the squad and try to figure out what's needed or what's highest on that to-do list for the new manager, and you go through the squad, it's not a bad 11 at their best. Onana's a good goalkeeper. He proved that in Serie A. De Ligt is a good defender. He's shown that through his career. Maybe not a Champions League winning defender. Yes, he has some flaws, but he's a whole lot better than anything Manchester United have had for some time. Lisandro Martinez is a very good defender. We could go through Kobe Mainoo, Casemiro, Højlund is a good striker. We know Rashford at his absolute best, but just somehow, as good as this team has shown they can be individually, they've been far too inconsistent, and collectively they simply have not been good enough. So when we start to think about, well, what's Amorim going to do next? Who is going to come through that door come January? You kind of start to second guess. Well, again, I'll speak for myself. I kind of start to second guess myself. Is a striker more important than a midfielder in this circumstance? Does he need another centre back? Because he certainly seems to prefer to play three at the back, and which you saw him do with Sporting, and that's key. And now to the graphic, the first three games: Ipswich, Bodo Glimt, Everton. That's a good start to have. And again, that Ipswich is away. We'll continue to underline that. But that's a good start to have in terms of how you figuring out this team. Because those are three winnable games. They don't have to go and win by 4 and 5-0. That is irrelevant at this point. But if you win those three games, 6 points in the league, if you figure out who your best 11 is, if you figure out your formation, or at least things start taking shape, by the time Arsenal comes around, you have a better idea. And then Forest have proven themselves to be a very good team. And then all of a sudden you got City in the lead after Victoria Pilsen. So it can possibly just start to shape up nicely for Amorim. But again, all this is a hypothetical at this point.
Yeah, let's not forget here. I mean, yes, it's a new manager, and often you see a new manager bounce. But United are where they are in the table because they haven't been good enough. So is it simply a case of getting a new manager in and start winning games? So I went back a couple of years, and I looked at Erik ten Hag's first game in charge of Manchester United. They played Brighton. They lost by 2-1. He played Christian Eriksen as a false nine. He's basically behind the 8 ball after his first game. So the importance LME is understandable to get off to a winning start. But there's no guarantees, because Ipswich are a decent side, and that'll be a statement for them if they could get a result against a new manager. Where would that leave him if United don't win at Portman Road this weekend?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think that the context is needed here. Ruben Amorim is an auteur of his formation. We know how stubborn he is about certain responsibilities that his players have to do. And when you enter a Premier League team that's not in the preseason, and not only that, he's entering a Premier League team for the first time in his career. He's entering the likes of Manchester United, right? So all the headlights are on him. He's playing Ipswich away. So you're going to see fragments of his 3-4-3, I think. You're obviously not going to see the complete idea. It's just not going to happen. He's had to wait for many players to come back from international duty, injuries, etc. But what I think we will see, though, is maybe some players in this roster take different responsibilities. And it's going to be really interesting to see what the likes of Diogo Dalot and Mazraoui do in terms of covering space on both sides. Manuel Ugarte, who played under him already for Sporting, and Marcus Rashford as well is going to be interesting to me, because obviously, he prefers to go out wide, but that's not really an Amorim thing. Now, it's not necessarily about the result, like Shaka said. It's not about destroying teams 3-0 or even getting a draw, etc. But it's about, are they learning the process? Having said all that, as Shaka said, those first 3 matches are very doable, and you can definitely get something here. If you can win at Ipswich, and then Bodo Glimt is your first welcoming into Old Trafford, that crowd is going to be energized. If you can get a victory there, then you said it, MD, earlier this week, this is also about momentum. And then momentum builds confidence and vice versa. And now you are facing an Arsenal side on that 4th match, which clearly is going to be the toughest game up to that point for him. And if you can get a result there, whether it's a draw or something, now you're really building the confidence. And now you're building the strength in that roster to say, hey, I really believe in this man. Because this is something that I need to remind every Manchester United fan. Ruben Amorim, one of his biggest strengths is he makes you believe in yourself more so than you have ever thought. Look at Gyökeres, for example, somebody that wasn't even getting a look at in lower divisions. And look what he turned. Maybe he can do that with Rasmus Højlund, right? Look at Alejandro Garnacho, a young player that's willing to prove himself. There are so many good examples of where Ruben Amorim can come in here and really make you believe. Now, if everything falls flat at the very beginning, I am more than certain that Ruben Amorim will enter that dressing room, will enter the press conference and say, it's okay, we got this, we'll make it work. And hopefully for the sake of the club, it's going to happen. But just like Shaka said, those first 3 matches are very doable.
Shaq, does Amorim have to change the culture at the football club?
You would seem so. All evidence points to serious issues culturally within Manchester United, and in fairness, I don't think that's just down to the players. As much as they're the ones who take the field on a match day, they're the ones who come in for a lot of abuse when things don't go right. I think things have been going wrong at the highest levels of the football club for quite some time, and it's trickled down. It takes its toll. So while he is tasked with changing the culture, certainly of the dressing room, and maybe how things are translated on the park, there are other issues within the club that, the hope was Ineos would start to address. Now, we'll see exactly. We'll be able to tell if Ineos are addressing some of those higher up cultural issues by the product on the pitch. I think the two go hand in hand. But without question, Amorim has an integral role to play here.
We're live on the whistle at full time from Portman Road on Sunday. So join us for ESPN FC Live to see how Ruben Amorim gets on in his first game in charge of Manchester United. So United have got their man. Now Inter Miami in Major League Soccer have got to find their man. Tata Martino still had time left in his contract, but decided this week he'd had enough due to personal reasons. So he's moved on. Elemi, what's the latest that you can tell us with regards to Inter Miami's search to replace Tata Martino?
Yeah, Andy, very quickly on Tata Martino, as you mentioned, he's left the club, or he's leaving the club. The announcement is literally happening as we're talking, or soon thereafter, with the club making the presser. Personal reasons. He's 61 years old. The spotlight on Inter Miami is so much for him. He's already won MLS Cup with Atlanta United. He's already managed some of the biggest clubs and national teams out there. And I think he rightly has said, look, I need time for myself. And I'm sure that will be explained in the presser. In terms of who's next, well, reports, including our very own ESPN Argentina and much more, suggest that Javier Mascherano, who is Lionel Messi's former teammate, of course, massive representative for Argentina. He was managing Argentina under 20s. Obviously, he's played for some of the biggest clubs in Europe, including Liverpool, Barcelona, etc. He is the man to take over. And this ticks a lot of boxes. And also there are a few minuses for me. Ticks a lot of boxes because the most important thing for Inter Miami fans and Inter Miami is that Lionel Messi entering 2025, a very pivotal season with the club, of course, because we don't know what's going to happen after that. This is urgency now after the failure of not getting out of the playoffs in MLS. So they're going to really need to win MLS Cup. So the most important thing is that Lionel Messi has a manager that he trusts and that he likes. And that's Mascherano. They're very good friends. They know each other very well for both club and country. The second perspective is that Inter Miami as a whole has a lot of young Argentinian and Argentinian-American players. Facundo Farias, who didn't play this season because of an ACL. Federico Redondo, the son of one of my favorite players, Fernando Redondo, as well, in there as well. Chelo Weigand at the back. There's a lot of Latin American and Argentinian young talent that's emerging. And Javier Mascherano, as you know, they lost to France in the quarterfinals in the Summer Olympics, but he's done generally a really good job with that youth setup. So that's another reason why he's coming in, because Miami is quintessentially so different to any other club in MLS. It's very Latin American. It's very heavily Argentinian influence, and that's why he's coming in. My minus, he's never managed a club before. Yeah. And he's never managed a club before in an MLS environment, which, as we know, is very difficult because it's the regular season and then it's the playoffs. And you're doing trips that are the equivalent of an international trip, right? When you have to play teams on the West Coast and go back, etc. So there's a lot of obstacles here. But overall, I think the pluses outweigh that. And Javier Mascherano reportedly is the next man to take over. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one unfolds. But that's the man to take over as we speak.
If it is him, Shaka, is it a gamble?
Oh, absolutely. For all the reasons that LME just detailed there. And while, yes, there are some pluses, looking in from the outside, they are few and far between. And that's down to a couple of things. One, his inexperience. Yes, he's been coaching Argentina under 20s, but only 22 games in charge of them. Coming into a system and a club like Inter Miami and a league like Major League Soccer and all the quirks, as probably as nicely as I can put it, that comes with managing in Major League Soccer. Supporters Shield, and then the playoffs, MLS Cup, and the transfer system and everything that kind of comes as part of just managing any football club in Major League Soccer. And then the expectation around Inter Miami, and then the unknown. And yes, the thing is, we're gonna keep. Oh, Sydney, I will keep saying this. Eventually, one year it will be right. Lionel Messi's powers will start to wane at some point. Granted, there's absolutely no sign of it happening anytime soon, but Father Time is undefeated. As good a fight as Lionel Messi continues to put up, you just wonder how long he can continue to carry this team in the way that he has. And yes, I know Inter Miami are again linked with a whole lot more talent, and even Neymar being thrown into the mix there. But you still feel that so much about Inter Miami so much of all disappointment revolves around Lionel Messi. So again, I say this, there is absolutely no sign that Lionel Messi is slowing down, that his powers are waning, but at some point that will come true.
LME, Shaka has just said eventually they'll probably get it right. What if they don't? Is this becoming too pally? What do you want, Lionel Messi? Okay, give me Suarez. Okay, you can have Suarez. Who do you want as manager now that Tata's gone? Give me Mascherano, which is great. You want him to be as comfortable as possible. Now, I love Lionel Messi, right? And I'd love nothing more than to see him successful. But I have to play devil's advocate as well. There's no guarantees, right? They played Inter Miami. They played Atlanta United. They didn't get through that. So what if he's getting everything he wants, but he's still not successful? Where does that leave Inter Miami when he's tried his hardest, but ultimately, for whatever reason, it might not work?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of trophies and everything, and MLS Cup, it's a failure because this is the ultimate objective, to win MLS Cup. Now, it's important to remember that Inter Miami are a baby club. They're very young. They only started playing a few years ago, only just before coronavirus hit us. In fact, that was their debut season. So there's a lot to be made here. But as you mentioned, when Lionel Messi enters the stratosphere, which is the same as Cristiano Ronaldo in the Saudi Pro League, then everything changes because the attention and the demands and the responsibilities of the club are no longer just to the club, but they're to him because he wants to make sure that he's also successful. The good thing is that Lionel Messi has the type of personality that really just wants to move on and play hard. In fact, I think that a lot of the issues are coming from the backroom stuff. I think they overhyped so much this season that it became such a failure. A great example was this overwhelming preseason global tour at the beginning of the season. Like, why are you doing this? Like, especially when Messi was injured, right? So you're already creating a spotlight that you don't need. When they won the Supporters' Shield, fireworks were lighting up at Chase Stadium. Gianni Infantino was saying that they're going to be the host of the club. Like, Messi didn't want any of that. In fact, at the end of that game, he said, the job's not done. We need to win MLS Cup. So I think the club needs to realize that, yes, we're going to give you what you need. Mascherano is going to come here. But at the same time, we need to now focus on what's more important, and that's the football on the pitch. And a lot of it is not Messi's fault. It's just trying to maximize the Messi name, which I understand. But when you overhype a team, especially in MLS, then you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail. So it's very important to now the next man in, which right now is Javier Mascherano, who, by the way, he coaches like how he used to play. Take full responsibility. They call him
cards aplenty.
Yeah. You'll probably see a few bookings too as well. They call him in Spanish el jefecito, right? The little chief, because he likes to take responsibility and ownership as this defensive midfielder, accidental center back, like they used to call him in Argentina as well, right? They like to have that, and I think that's what he's going to give. But to your point, when you have Lionel Messi, you can't just say yes to him to everything. Because at the end of the day, there is so much that he can do. And Shaka, I got to tell you, like, you're right. Like, at some time waits for no man. But I'm already kind of seeing it, especially with the national team. He's had to retransform his game. So this is going to be a really important 2025 for him. And whoever it is, and it's likely to be Javier Mascherano, my biggest advice to Inter Miami is this. Stop overhyping the product. He's there. You're going to get seats. You're going to get people on seats. You're going to get the attention. Focus on the most important thing, which is the football itself.
How guilty are they, Shaka, of doing that? Because we're the one that wants to see how did Lionel Messi get on last night. Are we going to be somewhere like in a legacy period, 50 years' time? We're now talking right now about the cosmos of the 70s and 80s. So in the 2070s and the 2080s, we're going to look back and go, oh yeah, Messi played for Inter Miami. Are Inter Miami going to be the New York Cosmos 50 years from now? Ultimately, no one really remembers if the Cosmos won or lost back in the 70s or 80s, but they had Pele and Beckenbauer and other legends. Is it more than just results as far as legacy is concerned?
I think that's the kind of danger of where we are right now with Inter Miami. And yes, I without question, in 50 years' time, people will reflect on Inter Miami and their impact. And to LMA's point, still a very young club in Major League Soccer, how they've been able to navigate. Again, I'll use as political language as I can, navigate the transfer system and the salary cap and everything that goes along with it to build the squad that they have. And so far only deliver one Supporters' Shield. And in fairness to Lionel Messi, again to LME's point, he knows better. He's been there. He knows when a job is half done. And he knows you do not celebrate when a job is half done, because that's the game will 9 times out of 10 kick in the teeth as a result. So as much as we were talking about a cultural change around Manchester United, what was it, 10 minutes ago, you could probably make the same argument around Inter Miami. The challenge for Inter Miami is that given the newness of the club, given that this is what they are known for, this is their foundation. This is where they've kind of staked their claim around who they are, bringing in the best players to have ever played, packing the stadium with celebrities who otherwise do not come to soccer games. What's the legacy that, to your question, what's the legacy, not just in 50 years' time, what's the legacy in 5 years' time? Who are Inter Miami come 2030, let's say? Those are our real questions to ask of a club that has risen to prominence in this league unlike any other. And I say unlike any other, fully recognizing David Beckham and LA Galaxy and what that did to the league at the time and everybody who's followed suit. this is different. It feels different, and it needs to impact the league and Miami a whole lot differently.
Yeah, I'm glad that Shaka mentioned David Beckham, MD, because we had a question regarding about expectations when David Beckham came to LA Galaxy, and in the end they won 2 MLS trophies. But I may remind our viewer there that it took him 5 seasons to do that. You know, and it's a different environment. And by the way, actually Beckham and LA Galaxy are a perfect example of what I was talking about, because if you remember, and if anybody's watched that Netflix documentary, many fans were not happy when he went to AC Milan and took that loan, and he was doing things like outside extracurricular off the pitch situations are not going to help you. Whatever happens with Messi and Inter Miami, it's not going to determine the legacy of Lionel Messi. We know what Lionel Messi has done, etc. But this is more about this club that has put so much, and the league that has put so much effort in making sure that Messi's here. And so 2025, they have to get it right. And my only advice is, whatever the expectations are, make sure that the biggest focus is on that roster, that squad, and what you do week in and week out. And if it's Javier Mascherano, then I wish him all the best.
I can't wait for the day that somebody says, Lionel Messi, he won La Liga and Champions League, he won the World Cup, but never won
MLS Cup.
Never won MLS Cup. I cannot wait for that day.
Keep up to date with ESPN FC every single night to talk about Messi's legacy and will he or will he not win Major League Soccer, but more importantly, to find out who the next Inter Miami manager is going to be. Before we wrap up, we're going to throw over shortly to Jules Laurent, who's been, honestly, what a gig this is. He was let loose in the classic football kits store.
Ridiculous.
That's Christmas all over again. Favorite kits, because Colombia have got an anniversary kit out right now, which is just absolutely glorious. A Peruvian side, Universitario, had a Centenario jersey, which was magnificent, maroon and white, just like the famous Heart of Midlothian football.
There
you go.
Wow, what a connection. That was amazing.
Pretty good.
Who had 28 minutes on their bingo
28 minutes on the watch. Yeah, it's not even on that one. Shaq, what was your favourite quadruple X jersey that you ever wore at Newcastle?
There's only one kit that ever mattered in the history of football, and that is the Newcastle Skyline goalkeeper shoot. Nothing like it.
That was a beauty.
Lock the doors, turn the lights off. We're done here.
Yeah, I would like to ask you as well, LME, but I'm not, in case you bring up Kubias and his jersey when Peru beat Scotland at the World Cup. So I'm going to say thank you to you both. Mute their mics, especially the one on the left, please, in case he gets that dig in. Thanks to Shaq. Thanks to LME. A reminder, at the weekend, we're back with all the reaction to the big games across Europe. We're going to leave you with the equivalent of a kid in a candy store. Julien Laurent let rip among those of the classic football kits. But what did he find? Let's find out.
Hi guys, it's Jules. We've come here to my favourite shop in the whole entire world, Classic Football Shirt in London, where I'm going to pick my 10 favourite shirts of all time and share them with you. Let's go in. Here they are. Wow. Some of the most beautiful shirts in the history of the game. Look at this, from everywhere in the world, Europe. Oh, this is going to be fun. So here we have the Porto home shirt 2013-2014 season. You can see here for the centenary, the 1893 to 2013. Beautiful shirt. Paulo Fonseca was the coach. This is the team of Nicolas Otamendi and Lucho Gonzalez and Jackson. Even Ricardo Quaresma was still in that team. Not a good season, finished quite far away from Benfica. I mean, forever, I think this one will stay really in the history books of FC Porto. Next one, for all our fun in Mexico, Club America, 1994-1995. I mean, I don't think there's a more iconic shirt than this one when it comes to Mexican clubs. 94-95, Leo Benecker as the head coach. A great, great team from Club America. François Mambic, remember him, the Cameroon striker. Top goal scorer that season, 33 goals in the league, 36 in all competitions. Cuauhtemoc Blanco is also in there. Branco, the Brazilian, in there. Like, great, great team. But just for all the legends that they had in their team, I think that shirt is forever synonym of those legends of the games, World Cup legends like Omanbek, like Branco, like Blanco, really wearing this shirt all in the same team. Next, the Seattle Sounders. Obviously, MLS 2017-2018 season. This is the away kit. Who else, really, than Clint Dempsey to go behind? Maybe for me, the greatest player in US soccer history, with Landon Donovan, of course. But beautiful, beautiful shirt. Everything I love about this shirt, from the little star here, Nicolas Lodero in that team, Clint Dempsey, of course, coming really short of winning the MLS Cup. It's just such an iconic, even with the Xbox here, the crest, the Adidas is so pure, so white. Beautiful, beautiful, and obviously a big shout out to Clint Dempsey. One of the most recognizable shirt, I think, in football history, Ajax, with the white and red stripes. The very famous crest in the back here, just behind the collar. 09-010 season for this one, the home shirt, of course. A certain Luis Suarez, 23-year-old Luis Suarez, playing for Martin Jol, who was the manager that season. Suarez on fire before getting his move to Liverpool. 35 goals in all competitions that season. A very young Christian Eriksen, too, playing in that team that finished second, 09-10. Even if at the end there was not a title, it was still very much the Luis Suarez season. Next is Roma, the 2014-2015 season. This is the away shirt, obviously white. Again, the crest and the very famous representation of Rome as a city. Victor Ibarbo at the back, the Colombian striker. Maybe not the best player that we could have picked in that squad, but still, it's a beautiful, beautiful shirt. Rudy Garcia, the coach, a team obviously with Daniel De Rossi, Francesco Totti, Ashley Cole even was there in the squad that season. They finished second behind Juventus. Roma shirts, iconic, beautiful always, whether it's a home, away kit, third shirt, very, very beautiful. And this one from 2014-2015 away was one of them as well. Again, one of the most recognizable shirts in European football, a bit like Ajax, a bit like Roma. This is Borussia Dortmund, of course, 2016-2017 season. The home shirt, the famous yellow shirt. Nuri Sahin at the back, who's now the manager of the current team, but at the time was the maestro midfielder in Thomas Tuchel's side, because Jurgen Klopp had moved on. At the time was at Liverpool. Thomas Tuchel took over. Not the best of season for them. Quarterfinal of the Champions League, final of the Pokal. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, as the number 9, scoring over 30 goals. Ousmane Dembele, who they've just signed for Rennes, with an amazing season before going to Barcelona with, I think, 13 or 15 assists in all competitions. So, very iconic shirt again. Great players, and in Thomas Tuchel, a great manager as well. Right, let's go to Brazil now. And I mean, there's no better shirt in Brazil for any club or any national team than the number 10 in the back, of course. This is Flamengo 2000-2001 season. Julio César in goal. Edmilson in midfield. Adriano up front. And this beautiful, beautiful shirt. The traditional colors, the 3 stars, obviously, the crest. One of the most glorious, really, football shirt ever for this Flamengo side. With, again, most of the key players moving very, very soon after that season to Europe, from Adriano to Julio César, and winning loads of trophies in Europe. But before that, they all wore this beautiful shirt in the Brazilian league. Now, one of my favorites ever. I think one of the purest shirts in the history of football, the Boca Juniors shirt. Not always been like that. Sometimes you've had, obviously, the stripe diagonally. But this is beautiful. 95-96 season, home shirt, the famous Quilmes sponsor, obviously, front and back. This incredible kit maker that I don't even know the name and doesn't exist probably anymore. The CABJ there, and then this old school crest that has obviously been a bit damaged from the... And it's not just the shirt that season. Diego Maradona himself, back at his club, back at his former club. Juan Sebastian Veron would arrive in January. Claudio Caniggia is there too, wearing this shirt. Just for the shirt, just for the names in that squad in that season. From Diego himself, the GOAT, to Caniggia and Veron and all the others. Beautiful, beautiful. Just the colors marry so well. It's just amazing. One of my favorite shirts ever. Another absolute beauty, Arsenal 1995-1996 season, the away shirt with Tony Adams at the back, number 6, the captain, the centre back, the legend at this club. before the Arsene Wenger era. So this is Bruce Rioch as a manager. Not a great season in the league. I think finishing 5th. Early exit in the FA Cup. 2 semi-finalists, I think, of the League Cup at the time, but not good despite great players everywhere. Adams, of course, first and foremost, but you had Ian Wright there, Dennis Bergkamp up front with him. You had David Seaman in goal. Great team that then, obviously, with Arsene Wenger, will come and dominate English football and the Premier League. But just everything about this beautiful Nike shirt. The logo, of course, the old school Arsenal logo that has changed since, with the Gunners at the top. The kind of the lightning stride on the shirt, beautiful, the 2 colours marrying so well. And even what I love the most is Arsenal in those like kind of gothic writing at the bottom, beautiful. The shirt, the name, I mean, this is obviously added on to the shirt, the beautiful shirt, one of the most beautiful in Premier League history. And then the best for last, obviously, what else than a PSG shirt, of course, the very iconic one, simply because of this guy here, Leo Messi's first season, 21-22, so 2021 and 2022 season at the Parc des Princes, the home shirt, of course, the collaboration with Jordan. Messi going back to number 30 with the number that everything started for him at Barcelona at the time, because the 10 was already taken by Neymar. On paper, the greatest front 3 ever, probably, Neymar, Mbappe and Messi playing together. A season where they win the league, of course, pretty easily, actually, with Mauricio Pochettino as the manager. Just to have Messi in Paris. Growing up, if somebody had told me one day that the greatest player of all time would play for my club, I would have never believed it, let alone with Neymar and Mbappe up front, and then Angel Di Maria behind them. I would have never believed it. My children were very fortunate to see this. Not the best of Messi's season, of the 2 seasons, that first one. I think he had only 6 goals and 11 assists or 15 assists. The season after that, 21-22, would be much better for Messi, of course, especially with the World Cup in between. Still, this is the first season of Messi in Paris, and just for that reason, this shirt is very special and will forever be very special.